Biology Part 225. Geographical isolation. The islands of the Galapagos archipelago, visited by Darwin in 1835, lie on the equator about 1,000 kilometers off the coast of Ecuador and almost 5,000 kilometers from the nearest land to the west. The islands were volcanic origin and are believed to have been thrust up out of the sea about 2 million years ago, so that no direct connection with South American mainland has ever existed. Indeed, the submarine's platform on which the island stands is separated from the continental shelf by a deep trench. Therefore, with the exception of the recent introduction by man, the ancestors of all animals and plants which inhabit in the islands must have first arrived by accident. How could this happen in the case of the terrestrial organisms? The most likely explanation stems from the fact that the islands lie in the path of Humboldt Current, which flows from the south to north along almost entire coastline of South America. The continent contains huge regions of rainforest, and it is not uncommon for the mats and vegetation, trees, and other debris to be carried down the rivers and out to the sea. Perhaps in the past it could have happened that the animals and the plants were ferried from the mainland, and that some of them became first colonists of these remote islands. This view is supported by a very restricted range of the species found in the Galapagos, reflecting the rarity of successful ocean crossings, and by the nature of the groups represented. Amphibians, that is, frogs, newts, salamanders, and the toads, are killed by the contact with the seawater and do not occur. Similarly, the large mammals, which would be unlikely to survive a voyage of several weeks or months, are completely absent. On the other hand, reptiles, which can survive without food and water for long periods, are common and have become the dominant land animals. Birds, insects, and the bats, which could have been carried by the storms, are also present. What fascinated Darwin was that while all these organisms resemble the mainland forms in a general way, many of them appear to have diverged, forming new species which were endemic to the islands, and that is species which were found nowhere else. For example, among the 700 species or so flowering plants which have now been described, 250 are endemic. Endemic animals include the giant tortoise, the two species of Iguana lizard are there, the land iguana, and then there are the marine iguana, Amphiorine christiana. Of particular interest of the Darwin's finches, a group of the small short-tailed birds with grayish, brown or black plumage was there. 14 species are recognized. They resemble one another in breeding behavior, internal anatomy, and differ considerably in shapes, their beaks, and feeding habits. Darwin reasoned that these different forms must have developed by descent from common ancestors. Following an initial successful colonization, the finches would have been likely to spread the neighboring islands, building up a series of isolated populations, each of which would become adapted to own particular environment. Freed of competition from mainland farms, individuals which began to exploit different food sources from the parental farms could have been at an advantage or likely to have multiplied, forming first new local varieties and later separate species.